Everyone, it's summertime, clothes are starting to come off, right? And I also believe that one of the basic human instincts is how can I look good naked, right? That attraction of a possible mate. So we always make it sound silly, but I mean, that's hardwired in all of us. So I am going to try to give you some very precise ways of how to get that desired body that you want. The very first thing is you just have to suffer. I'm sure there's going to be nutritionists and dietitians out there and other coaches who are going to scream at me for this and say that's just totally a bad way of looking at this. There's ways to go about it, whatever they might say. Am I saying that you should starve yourself? No. What I am saying that as a society, and most of us, and I would bet that if you're listening to this, you fall in the category of someone who lives a rather comfortable lifestyle in the grand scheme of things. And so we have learned about instant gratification, and we have our AC units when it's hot out and our heaters when it's cold out. Our food sits neatly in our fridge. If I don't want to cook, I can go out and get whatever it is that I'm craving within minutes, right? And so we have come to be very, very comfortable. When we say that we need to restrict calories in order to lose weight, we immediately look for another way. And I am sure if you went online, you could see thousands and thousands and thousands of hits on individuals who are claiming that they're losing weight without being in a caloric deficit. Chances are is they're just an idiot and don't know what math is. But what happens is we start our diet and then we realize that it's uncomfortable, and then we say there's got to be another way. And we find these individuals for whatever means, whether it's performance enhancing drugs or whether they just are lying to us straightforward, or they think that they're in a caloric deficit and they're not. And we turn to them and we try their methods, right? We see this all the time, not just with diets, but in terms of cultural differences. We turn to the Mediterranean diet for how healthy it is. We turn to some of these countries such as Japan and China, and we look at how much rice they're consuming, and yet they're still thinner than most Americans. We look at different tribes in Africa versus some of the Eskimos, and we wonder, why are these people generally thinner than we are? Well, it has nothing to do with the macronutrients they're taking in. It has nothing to do with the micronutrients they're taking in. They're just eating less than we are. So the very first thing I would suggest if you're someone who wants to lose weight is to eat less. And if you're telling me right now, chances are that if you're eating whatever amount of calories you think you are and you're not losing weight, I would generally believe that you're just bad at math, or you're not actually adding things that you should be adding, or whatever it is. Most times I think it comes down to just suck it up and realize that you're probably eating more than you're claiming you are. Yes, to save the butts here at Powertrain, I'm sure there are people who have metabolic issues and individuals who are already just so grossly under eating that there's some issues there. I'm not here talking to that individual. I'm here talking to the average Joe, most of us who are just wanting to look better in a bathing suit this summer. So rule number one, just eat less calories. And with that, understand that it's not going to be pleasurable, right? For those of you still not satisfied with that, understand that all the way from rat studies all the way up into humans, individuals who restrict calories live longer, period. And so I think that's important to understand is, again, we take this cushy, everything feels good society that is America, and we actually look at what's happening in the rest of the world, is that individuals who can learn to restrict calories, not only are we going to lose some weight, we're going to live longer for it. I think we have to understand that America is such a strange culture when it comes to food and what it means in order, and what eating means. So a lot of these other countries, when we ask them, when are you done eating? They're done eating when they feel satisfied. Versus if you ask the average American, when are you done eating? It's, well, when my plate is empty, or when I'm overly stuffed, right? And so I think we need to take a step back and really realize that it's not just us as an individual, it's us collectively as a culture that is really making this whole idea of weight loss a whole lot harder than it is, right? Let's look at this. I'll go just a little bit deeper and then I'll kind of switch gears. Let's look at typically Chinese, Japanese is we see that prevalence of smoking. I don't know if it's higher or lower than America, but I do know there's a large prevalence of smoking in these countries, and yet these individuals are not suffering from hypertension and heart issues at the same degree as Americans are. Well, what happens? You put these individuals on a Western diet, and all of a sudden, heart issues, strokes, hypertension, etc., goes to the roof. So there is a lot to be said. Am I saying that it doesn't matter if you're a smoker? No, that's not what I'm saying. But there is a lot to be said about how many total calories we're taking in daily. And that a little bit of restriction, a little bit of self-control is going to go a very long way. I believe we're 600 calories extra per day than we were in the 1940s, which, do the math there, 600 times 7, how many extra calories are you over a week? Do that times 52, and it's no wonder that I think on average we've gained 12 pounds as like per person. Might even be more than that, don't quote me on that. But I do know we're getting heavier, right? So suffer a little bit, stop. Great quote from Michael Pollan is, be the type of person who takes supplements and then don't spend your money on the supplements. A lot of supplements have really been found to not give us any benefit whatsoever. However, look at the individuals who are taking supplements. Typically, they're the individuals who care about their body, their health, longevity, things like that. And so, number one, please don't spend money on supplements. Instead, spend money on a certified coach, a professional coach, a nutritionist, a dietitian, things like that. And two, just start to be a little more in tune with what's going on in your body, right? I think we can kind of picture that individual who, I look at Chris Traeger from Parks and Rec, if any of you know that, right? He had all the supplements that he took throughout his day. He had his routine on when he ran, when he swam, how many miles he biked every day, how many pull-ups he did, right? His entire life revolved around his health and his fitness. And so if you can kind of picture that individual, are you that type of individual? Obviously not to that extreme, but are you just going to GNC and buying them out to bring home all these supplements and then not implementing any other rules or routines that the Chris Traegers of the world are implementing? Don't rely on your gym. Coaches, please don't, well, I don't care if you lose your minds because I'm right. But when you're going to your coach, it does not matter what you do in the gym. That is not what we're gonna see any type of weight loss here, meaning you're with your coach 2, 3, if you're lucky, 4 hours a week. Do that math there, grand scheme of things. I mean, it's microscopic in terms of movement throughout your week. And so I think a lot of us get a little too reliant on what we're doing in the gym as the X factor for weight loss, when that's just not the case. So if you're doing absolutely nothing all day at work, in terms of movement, you're just sitting there, right? And then you go to the gym after work for an hour, and then you go home and you sit around the rest of the night, you're binge watching Netflix, you're on your phone. How much did you really move throughout that entire day, right? And then the weekend comes, I don't really do much on the weekend, it's hot out, I like to stay indoors, so I'm reading or I'm doing, minimal work around the house. How many total calories am I really burning throughout the week? So treat your fitness sessions as things like getting stronger, I'm building my confidence, I'm building my resiliency. But if you can separate out the I'm going to the gym to lose weight, I would be willing to bet it's going to encourage you to move more outside of the gym. So that kind of spills into, well, what do we do outside of the gym? We call this NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which is just a super fancy term for just move more. If we look at total steps in a day, from 0 up to about 10,000 steps in a day, tremendous amount of health benefits, tremendous amount of weight loss. Anything above 10,000, your return on investment is not as great. So do I want you out there trying to put in 20, 30, 40,000 steps a day? Absolutely not. But try to set a standard for yourself, a minimum of 10,000. And it's 2 o'clock here and I'm only at 4,000. So I got quite a few steps to take here yet today. Make sure you're sleeping. 2 nights in a row of lack of sleep produces a 25% increase in hunger in an individual. So imagine that you've sucked it up and you said, you know what, I do live a comfortable life. I'm going to restrict some calories. This is new to you. You're already, in your mind, suffering, and now you're not prioritizing sleep. Now you're just making your battle that much harder. So please make sure that you're getting enough sleep. To me, that is 6 to 8 hours. Michael Bann is a coach as well. He has a great quote that says, sleep as much as you can without being fired or divorced. So I think for a lot of us, we can afford more sleep. The inverse of that, and because I don't believe in extremes or just getting sucked into one side, I do believe that if we listen to some interviews from Cameron Haynes, for those of you who don't know Cameron, he's a big game hunter, but he became famous for his training. He does a ton of running, a ton of training. I might be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure the guy runs either like a half a marathon or a marathon a day. I could be way exaggerating that, but I know he just does a tremendous amount of work to reach his goals. And Cameron was just on a podcast. He was on Bear Performance podcast, and he was saying that everyone yells at him because he never gets enough sleep. And he says that, you know, to him, it's doing more work. That's what allows him to reach his goals. And so I think it's also important to understand that I think some of us like to spill back into the side of comfort. And so whether I'm being uncomfortable because I'm eating less, or whether I'm being uncomfortable because I'm actually going to go and put work in to reach my goals, there's a lot to be said there. So don't be afraid to do a little bit of extra. Your body is pretty good at letting you know when it's not ready for that extra. And so, you know, make sure you're talking to your coach, make sure that you have an open line of communication with someone who kind of knows, has a deeper understanding of all things health and wellness, just to make sure that you're not, doing more harm than good. So find that happy balance between sleeping enough and not being lazy, right? Just eat less calories. Stop being so comfortable all the time. Don't overcomplicate stuff. Just eat real food. Man, you know, I wish it was more complicated than that, but it just really isn't. If you want to lose weight, it's just a matter of putting the fork down. Ooh, man, that probably sounds offensive. I don't care, just put the fork down, right? All right, guys, thanks for listening to me ramble. I hope I answered some of your questions. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Until next time.